Welcome to the Gentleman's Guide to the Accursed. I know a Napoleon who tells me, power does not decay, it ferments. As far as the Napoleons are concerned, it has been fermenting for a very long time, and the longer it ferments, the richer the odour, the richer the taste, and ultimately, the headier the outcome. The Napoleons have patience, but they are also gluttons. They have enormous appetites, and they want more and more, and as the power accumulates, the richer it ferments, and eventually what is produced will be a world to the Napoleons' liking. Now, you might assume that with a name like the Napoleons, they must have emanated in the 18th century. Well, that's not true. Napoleon is a relatively recent epithet for this family, likely acquired from the works of George Orwell. Let's make that clear. But werehogs, wereboars have existed far longer than the works of George Orwell, or indeed Napoleon, famous for being, an emperor. That isn't to say the Napoleons that we know and love don't have commonalities with the chief pig of Animal Farm, or indeed the conqueror of much of Europe. You see, once, they say, all Napoleons were human, mortal, pink and fleshy, just like the rest of us, just like all the cursed were once untainted mortals, but only ever in the most clinical academic sense. Only if you count barons and bastards, charlatans and captains of old industry as human. If ever there was a time when Napoleons didn't grunt and hoard and root through the thresholds between here and there, and not here, no one remembers it. No one. Not even the Napoleons themselves. But you want history? Fine. Just don't expect the truth. And the Napoleons never part with the truth unless there is a hefty profit to be made. Once, they say, there was a hog of gold. Yes, a great porcine idol in some lost city. Its snout pointed to the sky, its eyes were made of black diamonds, and from its nostrils flowed the scent of wealth not yet acquired, or indeed stolen. A man, maybe a banker, perhaps a prince, maybe a war profiteer, maybe all three, depending on the storyteller, worshipped it. He built towers above it, poured the world's riches into its belly, and whispered every secret he knew into its cold metal ears. And one day, the idol answered back. The man was never seen again, at least not in that form, but soon a new family of accursed appeared in the high courts and the back alleys, the auction houses and the sewers. Their fingers were thick and ringed, their eyes were rheumy and sharp as broken glass, their appetites were ruinous. They called themselves, well, what they called themselves is ultimately immaterial, but we now know them as the Napoleons. They said they came from old money, older than oil, older than blood. They said they were descended from kings, but not the kind of kings who wore crowns, the kind of kings that owned the people who made the crowns. The Napoleons are werehogs, yes, but you won't catch them scrabbling in the woods like moon-mad lichens. No, their transformations are civilized. Curated is a good word. It begins with the scent of copper and old perfume, the twitch of a snout behind a tailored mask, then the bones thicken, the jowls swell, the hooves click on marble, they swell with greed, flesh warping into corpulence, power bulging beneath velvet. Their tusks grow like indulgences, curling toward nothing but hunger. Don't mistake their rot for madness. Napoleons are never out of control. Even in their beast forms, bloated, bestial, covered in silk-stained filth, they speak in crisp syllables. They quote market prices. They remember your debts. To be a Napoleon is not a curse. It is an inheritance. Napoleons are not content with wealth. They pursue heirlooms, those mythic, impossible objects that live in the liminal spaces of a city, beneath derelict malls at midnight, inside vaults no architect remembers building, down hallways that only appear when you've lost all hope. They call it rooting, a word that evokes pigs in the mud, yes, but something deeper, older. To root is to sniff out the sacred in the profane. And the Napoleons, they use their snouts to detect the scent of potential, the echo of power buried in forgotten places. When they root, they descend into what others call liminal thresholds, liminal spaces, interstitial zones, shattered spaces, you know the kind of places, where the world frays and the past leaks in like black mold. Others fear these spaces. The Napoleons treat them like antique stores. Some say the heirlooms are what give the Napoleons their power. Others say they were created by them, birthed from acts of generational greed and occult finance. Doesn't matter. What matters is that they want them all. You might expect a creature like a Napoleon to be hated. You'd be wrong. Feared, yes, envied, always, but hated? No. Well, there will always be some who despise the pig, but not all, not even the majority. You see, Napoleons don't just hoard, they offer loans, favours, inheritances, influence. They run salons where, well, certain pomp and ceremony is required, but truths are always optional. They fund museums of cursed relics. They donate to cathedrals of, not always faith, quite often sin. They bury bribes like acorns in urban blight and wait for the skyscrapers to grow from them. To some, they are patrons. To others, parasites. But they don't see themselves as beasts. No, they call themselves aristocracy. The natural rulers of the hidden world. The only other were-creatures they consider social equals are the Sphinx, the werecats, with their riddles, museums, and bloodlines traced in ash and ink. There is a long-standing respect between the hog and the cat. They dine together, they scheme together, they never, ever trust one another. Never. To the rest of us, Napoleons are symptoms of walking urban decay. Not just symptoms, but the soul of urban decay. Wherever they walk, gentrification follows like a shadow. What they touch becomes inaccessible, rare, sanctified through exclusivity and time. A cursed subway map, they'll buy it. A haunted billboard that only appears once a month, they'll frame it. A pocket of air from a dead city where angels once wept, they'll bottle it. The Napoleons collect pain like art. They invest in trauma, the other ways invest in real estate, and yet we need them. Because when an heirloom goes missing, when the liminal spaces threaten to unspool into the waking world, the Napoleons, well, they already have a catalogue number, a receipt, a key. They are monsters, but they are organised. Ask 10 Napoleons about their origins and you'll get 10 pedigrees, each more absurd than the last. Some claim they're the descendants of the real Napoleon, cursed to rot until they reclaim every artifact of their fallen empire. Others whisper they're the child of Mammon, born when the first coin was pressed into a dying man's palm. One rumour, never told aloud in their presence, says there is no true bloodline, that Napoleon is a mask worn by whoever possesses the first trough, an artifact said to contain the slop of every historical moment of greed, Golgotha silver, Versailles wine, Titanic pearls. Whoever drinks from it becomes one of them, a hog noble, a flesh bank of the forgotten. If it's true, then Napoleons can still be made, without descent from ancestors sharing this damned bloodline. But it also means they could be unmade, potentially. In a modern setting, modern city, choked by ghosts, phantasms, forgotten debts, failing infrastructure, the Napoleons are thriving. They buy collapsed churches for $1. They lease cursed basements to the desperate. They root through the gaps in reality, always hunting for the next heirloom, the next key to dominion. Some believe they're building something, a vault beneath the city where all heirlooms will be stored, a kind of liminal bank, a hoard so dense with power that the world itself will bend toward it. Others just think they're pigs in suits. glorified beasts rolling and rot. But be careful what you say, because Napoleons never forget a slight. They just let it mature, ferment, with interest.